History remembers Gettysburg, Stalingrad, and Normandy, but what if I told you that some of the deadliest battles ever fought didn't even make it into your high school textbook? Strap in, because we're diving into the top 10 deadliest battles you've never heard of, and number 1 might just leave your jaw on the floor. Number 10. The Battle of Kolubara. World War I is packed with massive battles, the Somme, Verdun, Gallipoli, but few people ever talk about the Battle of Kolubara, and that's a shame, because it's one of the most underrated underdog stories in military history. The Austro-Hungarian Empire launched a full-scale invasion of Serbia in late 1914, assuming it would be a quick win. Serbia was smaller, had fewer weapons, and was already reeling from earlier battles. By all odds, they were toast. In freezing conditions, the Serbs launched a full attack, pushing the Austro-Hungarian army into chaos. Not only did Serbia retake its capital, Belgrade, they completely routed the invaders. The battle cost over 100,000 combined casualties, a staggering number given Serbia's population. And yet, this David versus Goliath story is barely mentioned outside the Balkans. Number 9. Battle of Changping. Let's go way back, like ancient China back. The Battle of Changping wasn't just another clash in the Warring States period. It was an unthinkably massive bloodbath, and one of the deadliest military engagements in world history, period. Fought between the state of Qin and the state of Zhao, this battle wasn't a quick skirmish. It lasted over 2 years, from 262 BC to 260 BC, and involved hundreds of thousands of troops on both sides. These weren't professional soldiers, either. Many were conscripted farmers, craftsmen, and villagers thrown into brutal hand-to-hand combat. After months of stalemates, 𝐾𝐸's general 𝐵ai pulled off a genius and horrific strategy. He cut off Zhao's supply lines, surrounded their army, and starved them out. For 46 days, 400,000 Zhao troops waited for rescue that never came. When they finally surrendered, hoping for mercy, 𝐵ai ordered something unthinkable. He had every single one of them executed. That's right, 400,000 surrendered troops were buried alive or killed by sword. The mass grave site is still believed to exist somewhere beneath modern-day China. Number 8. The Siege of Leningrad. If you think Stalingrad was hell on earth, wait till you hear about Leningrad. This wasn't just a siege, it was a nearly 900-day nightmare where an entire city became a graveyard. In 1941, Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, and one of its main goals was the capture of Leningrad, modern-day St. Petersburg. But the Soviets refused to give up the city, so Hitler tried something worse than occupation: starvation. The Germans encircled the entire city, cutting off all food, fuel, and supplies. For 872 days, over 2.5 million people, including women and children, were trapped. They were shelled daily, starved, frozen. It got so desperate that people ate wallpaper paste, pet cats, sawdust bread, and even resorted to cannibalism in some horrifying cases. Winters were especially brutal. Bodies froze in the streets because there wasn't enough wood for coffins or heat. By the end, over 1 million civilians had died, making it the deadliest siege in history. It wasn't just a battle, it was a slow-motion genocide. Number 7. Battle of the Yalu River. Here's a maritime clash most people have never heard of, but it shaped East Asia's power dynamics for generations. The Battle of the Yalu River in the First Sino-Japanese War. This was 1894. China was still a traditional empire. Japan had recently modernized its military using Western tactics and technology. The result? An underdog naval force that completely shocked the world. The two navies met off the coast of Korea, each with about a dozen warships. China had bigger ships, some even armored, but Japan had speed, strategy, and better gunnery. For 5 straight hours, the fleets exchanged fire. In what was the largest naval battle in Asia in modern history up to that point, shells tore through iron hulls, wooden ships caught fire. One Chinese cruiser exploded so violently it was reportedly heard miles away. The battle cost China over 1,000 sailors and most of their fleet, while Japan suffered relatively light losses. Number 6. Battle of Manila. You've heard of Hiroshima, you've heard of 𝐬𝐮𝐫𝐞, but chances are you've never heard about one of the most horrific urban battles of War II too, the Battle of Manila, 1945. This wasn't a clean liberation, this was block-by-block carnage. After nearly 3 years of brutal Japanese occupation, American forces returned to take back the Philippines. But what they found in Manila wasn't just a city, it was a trap. Japanese troops refusing to surrender turned homes, churches, and hospitals into fortresses. Civilians were caught in the crossfire. What followed was 29 days of relentless urban warfare. Tanks in the streets, flamethrowers clearing buildings, artillery flattening entire blocks. Manila became a city of fire and rubble, and the worst part, the Manila Massacre. As Allied forces advanced, Japanese troops systematically murdered civilians. Mass executions, children bayoneted, hospitals bombed with people inside. Over 100,000 civilians died, not from crossfire, but from calculated brutality. Number 5. The Battle of Hua Hai. Okay, let's talk scale. You've heard of D-Day, you've heard of the Battle of the Bulge, but I bet you've never heard of the Battle of 𝐬𝐻, one of the largest battles of the 20th century and the turning point in the Chinese Civil War. We're talking late 1948 to early 1949. China is in full civil war mode. On one side, the nationalists led by Chiang Kai-shek, on the other, the communists led by Mao Zedong. And in the plains of eastern China, over 1.5 million troops collide in a showdown that would determine the future of the nation. That's 1.5 million soldiers, with thousands of tanks, artillery pieces and aircraft, and zero international headlines, because most of the world was focused on rebuilding after 001, and then came the mass defections. Nationalist morale collapsed. Entire divisions surrendered or switched sides. By the end of it, the nationalist army lost over 550,000 troops, and their hold on mainland China shattered completely. Mao's victory at 𝐻𝐻 wasn't just military, it was revolutionary. It led directly to the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949. That's 1.4 billion people's lives shaped by a battle nobody outside China talks about. Number 4. Battle of Tannenberg. Let's go back to the very beginning of World War I. Before the trenches, before the gas masks, there was Tannenberg, a devastating Eastern Front battle that most people have never even heard of. August 1914. The 𝐬𝐴𝐽 war declarations is barely dry. The Russian Empire mobilizes and charges into German-held territory with two massive armies, thinking Germany's too busy fighting France to put up much of a fight. Spoiler alert, Germany wasn't too busy. Enter Generals Hindenburg and Ludendorff, who pulled off one of the greatest encirclement maneuvers in military history. Using telegraph intercepts, fast troop movements via rail, and sheer audacity, they outflanked the Russian Second Army, cut off its retreat routes, and crushed it like a soda can. The result? 92,000 Russians taken prisoner, over 50,000 killed, and nearly entire army corps wiped off the map. The Russian commander, General Semsonov, was so devastated by the defeat that he rode into a forest and shot himself. Number 3. The Battle of the Dnieper. You want scale? Let's talk Battle of the Dnieper, one of the largest military operations in human history, and still one of the most underreported. It's 1943. The Soviets are trying to push the Nazis out of Ukraine. What they launched next is an operation so massive it involved over 4 million troops, thousands of tanks, and millions of civilians forcibly mobilized to support the effort. And the Dnieper River? Not just a scenic waterway, it became a fortified natural barrier, with Germans dug in on the western bank, turning every bend in the river into a death trap. The Soviets didn't care. They launched mass river crossings, often under heavy machine gun fire, in wooden rafts and makeshift boats. Entire units were wiped out mid-river. Nearly 2 million Soviet casualties, including tens of thousands of civilians caught in the chaos. Number 2. The Battle of the Somme. Now, you may have heard of the Battle of the Somme, but what you probably don't realize is just how absolutely horrific it really was, especially for something that's so often reduced to trench naps and sepia-toned photos. Let's start with this stat. On the first day alone, the British Army suffered nearly 60,000 casualties. That's the worst single day in British military history. The scale of death was so staggering that some units were completely wiped out before lunch. The plan? Bombard German lines for a week, then charge. The reality? The Germans were dug in so deep, the artillery barely scratched them. So when the whistles blew and the British soldiers went over the top, they were mowed down like grass. The battle dragged on for 141 days, with a total of 1.2 million casualties across both sides. And what was gained? Just a few miles of scorched earth and traumatized survivors. Number 1. The Battle of the Talus River. And finally, we arrive at number 1. A battle that didn't just kill thousands. It literally rewired the cultural DNA of the entire world. Say hello to the Battle of the Talus River. It's 751 AD. The mighty Tang dynasty of China is expanding westward. Meanwhile, the Abbasid Caliphate is doing the same thing, but from the opposite direction. Eventually, the two great superpowers collide in Central Asia, near the Talus River in modern-day Kyrgyzstan. What followed was a multi-day clash between Chinese and Arab forces, with elite cavalry, archers, and mercenaries on both sides. The battle itself was brutal. Tens of thousands died in hand-to-hand desert combat. Among the Chinese prisoners captured by the Arabs, skilled papermakers. That's right, this battle led to the spread of papermaking technology from China to the Islamic world, and eventually to Europe. Without this one battle, the Renaissance might have never happened. No Gutenberg press, no printed books, no internet. You're hearing this YouTube video right now because of the Battle of Talus. Single quotation mark. So, how many of these did you actually know before this video? Be honest. Drop a comment with your favorite, or let us know if we missed one even deadlier. And hey, if you're into the dark, hidden, and totally insane side of history, smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Next time, we're diving into real-life time travelers throughout history. You've been warned.